Imagine that you're seeing things that aren't there, and you're confused about time and place, and you quickly forget things that happened to you. You're hallucinating, you're delirious, you're suffering from amnesia. If you were to walk into a doctor's office with any of these symptoms, you'd be declared psychopathic, maybe even placed in an institution. And yet all of us were in this state 12 hours ago. We were sleeping. And that's the seeming paradox of sleep. It's a state that was selected by nature over the course of 3.6 million years. And it makes no sense. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. When you're sleeping, you're not finding food. You're clearly not reproducing. You're not even fending for yourself. You're totally vulnerable. On any of these grounds, sleep should have been strongly selected against. And yet here we are, 3.5 million years later, spending a third of our lives in this state of flagrant psychosis. If sleep doesn't serve some truly vital function, then it's the biggest mistake the evolutionary process ever made. We now know that sleep does have many vital functions, from cementing learning and consolidating memory, to regulating emotion and fostering the association of disparate experiences. And we also know that the vast majority of us need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night to function properly. So why do we have such a hard time getting the amount of sleep our brains so crave? Because we live in a culture that prizes sleep machismo. And we perpetuate a series of myths. So let's talk about a couple of them. So first myth, you might say, I can go with 5 or 6 hours of sleep per night and feel just fine. And you'd be partially right. There are some people that have a rare genetic mutation that allows them to get by with 5 hours or less of sleep each night without showing any signs of impairment. However, according to Dr. Thomas Ruth from the Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, the proportion of the population for which this is the case, rounded to the nearest whole number, is 0. It's negligible. For the rest of us, insufficient sleep can have serious consequences. So let me tell you about an experiment. Dr. David Dinges at the University of Pennsylvania took 2 groups of people. One of whom was sleep deprived, the other of whom was drunk to the legal driving limit, so 0.08% of blood alcohol. And he gave both of these groups a concentration test to assess cognitive performance. And what he found was that after just 19 hours of being awake, 19 hours, the sleep-deprived group was as cognitively impaired as the group that was legally drunk. So think about what that means. Imagine you wake up on a Friday at 7 a.m. and you go to work and you spend your day at work, then maybe you go out on the evening on a date or with friends, typical Friday. And even if you drink no alcohol whatsoever, by the time you're driving back home at 2 in the morning, you're essentially a drunk driver. But you might say, wait, I really do get 5 or 6 hours of sleep per night. In fact, I just got 6 hours of sleep over the past few nights, and I feel great. I feel fantastic. Am I delusional? And the answer is yes. Yes, you are. Dr. Dinges' experiment had a twist, and when he asked the sleep-deprived group how cognitively impaired they felt, they significantly underestimated their degree of disability. In fact, their self-assessment was a terrible, miserable predictor of just how bad they'd performed. Another major problem tied to this is something called baseline resetting. And it's been shown that after months or years of chronic sleep deprivation, people actually acclimate to their impaired performance and reduced energy levels, never even realizing that they're failing to maximize the potential of mind and body. Epidemiological studies suggest that millions of people spend years of their lives living like this. So bottom line is, we don't know how sleep deprived we are when we're sleep deprived. And that's the scariest part of it all. Now on to a second myth. We've all probably said at some point in our lives, I'll just sleep it off over the weekend. And the research shows that just isn't the case. Our brains are incapable of that. So back to Dr. Dinges' study. After the initial test, he took the sleep-deprived group and gave them 3 full recovery nights. So 3 full nights of sleep, then tested them again. What do you think happened the second time around? Turns out that even after 3 full recovery nights, performance still did not return to the original baseline levels. Sleep just doesn't work like that. In fact, we now know that lack of sleep builds up and compounds over time, and research even links it to some of the most feared diseases in the developed world. One of them is Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is triggered by a metabolic toxin called beta amyloid, which builds up naturally in our brains over the course of the day, and sleep offers a cleansing mechanism. And so the less sleep you're having across your lifespan, the more of that toxic protein is building up night after night, year after year. So insufficient sleep is now considered one of the most significant lifestyle factors determining whether or not you'll develop the disease. And for that reason, Dr. Walker from Berkeley goes as far as to call wakefulness a state of low-level brain damage, whereas sleep offers a reparatory function. Okay, so sleep matters. I hope you'll agree with me on that. So what's the upshot? What can we do to help combat sleep machismo and address the sleepless epidemic? So first off, at an individual level, there's a ton of research and literature out there on insomnia and how to improve your sleep, so I won't delve too much into it. All I'll say is that by far the best thing you can do for your sleep is simply give yourself an 8-hour window. No, it takes a meaningful lifestyle change, but it's totally worth it. On the business level, despite what we now know about sleep, sleep machismo remains pervasive. In fact, lack of sleep is often even boasted as a badge of honor. As an example, in my former job as a consultant, one of the lead partners in the firm loved to have sleep as one of his work-life balance KPIs. And his aspirational metric to gauge how much sleep he was getting was having no less than 4.5 hours of sleep per night on average. 4.5 hours. And that was the aspiration. Of course, that mindset trickled down to the rest of the team and the broader firm and reinforced the stigmatization of sleep. So from those overnight red-eye flights to the always-on expectation and the indefinite work schedules that often drag beyond midnight, I believe that sleep merits a radical rethink of policies and priorities in the business world. Because awareness drives action and change has to come from the top. We've all heard the old maxim, you can sleep when you're dead. Let me tell you, that is mortally unwise advice. We now know that the shorter you sleep, the shorter you live, and the quality of that now shorter life will be much worse. Sleep is not a paradox. It is not a luxury reserved for those of us without busy lives. It is a biological necessity, and it is critical. I sincerely hope that you'll reflect on some of these learnings, and if you don't, please just sleep on it. Thank you.